What's happening, my good people? It is your boy PKG Deluxe back with another vid on how I did. You already know what it is. All right, so just to get going, I know it's been a moment since I've been back on the screen saying things about how to make extra dollars doing X, Y, and Z. I just want to give a brief apologies. I've been out of it for, I want to say, at least a couple of weeks. So I've been trying to do content and also trying to recover at the same time. I do believe this is the final day of recovery for me, so I'm going to say I'm back, and let's get back to it. All right, so there was a couple of days ago, right before I went down, I was speaking about an eHarmony remote. eHarmony remotes, what are those? How do you use those? Where do you get them from? All right, cool. So there's an easy way to get an eHarmony remote, use it, set it up for somebody, and make money off of it. Why do I know that? It's because I used to work at the store where people used to do it all the time. So this goes towards the higher ends of Remotville, you know, the coolest of remotes, et cetera, et cetera. This remote is able to power on TVs, Blu-rays, PlayStations, any TV that we're speaking of. Essentially, it is a overall universal remote that can turn on any and everything once it's programmed into. If it works on Wi-Fi, it's going to program into it. So that's how that remote works. So there was a remote that was probably made, I don't know, let's say about 10 years ago, same type of remote before the Wi-Fi and all this existed. It probably had its own complexities to it. With the newer remote, it's a little bit simpler. Now, why am I bringing up this remote? The remote was pretty cool to use. The remote is pretty nifty if you have felt or used one. But the main reason I bring it to you is because the remote is like a phone. And if you're able to use a phone as a remote, you're able to also program this remote like a phone or like a remote. So eHarmony remotes, the elite status of remotes. We went to a person's house and they wanted to get their dinner receiver, their Samsung TV, and their Roku Fire Stick to work on all three channels simultaneously. Now, when we're using this remote, it goes between all three signals, allows you to power on and off, and connect to the Wi-Fi if you wanted to go that route with it. The reason I bring up the purposes of the remote is because it may seem like it's an easy breeze through, talk through conversation that I'm having with you, but the real reason I was out there is because somebody didn't know how to use it. Now, me being from a store where we use these remotes on the day in, day in, outs, it gave me an advantage that most people probably don't have. The second hand on it is the time frame on it. We're looking at what all can this remote do? How can this remote react? What all capabilities does it have? And the client at the time just really wants to use this remote in the same fashion that they already had one. So here we are, programming in the remote. The first and main thing we do is learn what our logins are. Are you a member of Logitech? So you first have to be a member of Logitech to even get this subscription going. So once you get that going, then you log into it with your Wi-Fi email. Those two things set up the entire remote. And at this point, you're just playing the waiting game. Updating, firmware, downloading, ensuring that all devices that you have connected are connected. That's what it's doing at the time. And your job is pretty much to just sit there and make sure it's done. So because people, I don't want to say lack the capability to figure these things out, I'm just trying to say at the end of this that there's monetization and things like that. I went out there and was able to get $79.14 off of that job, all for just sitting there and plugging up a remote. That's all it was. We knew what it was. We knew where we needed to place it. We knew all the devices, and we also knew our Wi-Fi password before we even began. So starting this entire conversation, universal remotes, eHarmony remotes. If you've never fiddled or played with one, I would recommend you get one because there's a lot of profit to make off of it just by knowing how to use it. So that's my 2 cents for today. We're going to get out here and make some more profits. I got a couple other conversations to talk about, but we on to it today, all right? PKG Deluxe is here. PKG Deluxe is out.